All right, and real quick, before the video starts, I do want to play the clip for you guys, and then we'll get into the intro and everything. So this is the clip that everybody's talking about right now. So I'll go ahead and play it for you guys. Deebo Samuel run out, and there he is running a route, and not looking too quick, but we'll talk about it later. It's mostly walk, like they're jogging, Everyone else is jogging as well. And I don't think it's a big deal, but a lot of people on Twitter, especially NFL fans, Eagles fans, think it's a big deal. So we're going to talk about it in today's video. Yo, what is up, guys? It's Pedro here, and in today's video, I'll be talking about how that national media is trashing on Deebo Samuel, calling him fat, out of shape, saying the Commanders lost that trade already. We'll talk about that and much more in today's video. If you guys are new, make sure to subscribe, hit that like button and that notification bell as well, so you never miss a video. So doing this on my lunch break, so the environment isn't necessarily the best. There might be some background noise, construction in the background, but we're going to do the best we can here. So, the Washington Commanders over the last few days, this is the last day of minicamp. I'll probably do a day 3 recap, but day 1 and day 2 have been completed. And yesterday there was a video circulating, and doing the rounds on Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff about Deebo Samuel running a route, looking kind of out of shape, not running super quick. I'm going to try to figure out the editing so I can put it on there for you guys, because, this, isn't my normal setup. But if not, you guys can go on Twitter. I'll, make sure to put some links on for you guys. But, it didn't look great for Deebo Samuel. He was running a couple routes in practice, looked a little bit out of shape, but not a ton. And he wasn't running full speed. They weren't doing, the full speed drills necessarily. Like, you're running a route against air. He wasn't running against any DBs, so you're not going to be running full strength or full speed. Sorry. And if you look at the clip, he was waiting for the ball, if anything. So he was, I'm not saying he was fast, but I don't think it's a big deal. But, the original tweet said, Deebo Samuel looks fat and out of shape. I think the, ML football, they're a clown, account, but whatever. They ended up editing it to whatever they said, but, they were comparing him to Eddie Lacy and doing clips side by side, whatever. And then, George Kittle responded, said it's called group install when players jog through plays, knock it off. So yeah, Deebo's not going full strength. Yeah, maybe he looks like he could lose a little bit of weight, but I really don't think it's a big issue. Deebo's always played with a little bit of extra, a few extra pounds on him, because, he needs that, because, he takes a lot of hits and takes a beating. So it's good to have a little bit of extra weight on him. You don't want him to be super out of shape like he was, right after the season last year with the 49ers, but I don't think it is a huge deal for, him to look like, the way he has. There's been other clips where he looks pretty good, so I don't think it's an issue. If anything, I think Deebo Samuel's going to see this and, take it as motivation. I know on, Instagram or something, he reposted something from Deion Sanders, talking about haters, whatever. So, again, like I said, it is what it is. He's going to do what he has to do to get better. If this motivates him, I don't know. It could, for sure. He seems like the type of player that takes offense to, certain things. And, so we're just going to have to wait and see how Deebo Samuel looks this year. I think he's going to be good. I really do think he's going to be good. I don't think the weight's a big issue. He's always, like I said, played with a little bit more weight than some other receivers. He's not super, down the field type of guy. You give him, passes near the line of scrimmage, near the first down sticks, and, let him do his work from there, and then, getting some yards after the catch. That's the type of player he is, not necessarily, let's run a go route or, a super, any other deep route and try to, go from there. He's not that receiver. He's more of a, he's a shorter shorter yardage receiver. Sorry, I was just trying to think of the words there. But yeah, shorter yardage receiver that's going to give you yak, and those are the types of things he's going to give you. Extension of the run game type of player. So he doesn't need to be able to run, 60, 70 yards down the field, super quickly. Again, he, makes people miss. He's, does stuff like that. But also, let's not act like he's not fast. Like, he has reached 20 miles an hour multiple times on big runs. He does make big runs. He has had big runs recently. I believe last year he had a long touchdown. So it is what it is. I let people talk. Honestly, let people talk. I think it's always good when, the league and fans and stuff like that don't believe in you. I think, it's good for motivation for players and for teams, and it's cool. It's cool when they're all, hating on you, and then, in a few months, you can pull out the receipts and be like, yeah, let's talk about that real quick. So how did that work out? That's kind of, the situation that the Commanders could be in with Deebo Samuel. Deebo, Jaden, and Zach Ertz, there's a picture of them, together, and, he looked pretty jacked. He looked pretty jacked and looked fit in that picture. So, again, I don't think it's a super big deal. It's just funny, honestly. It's funny. And Deebo's a player, he's he talks a lot in the media, stuff like that. And, he's not a very well-liked player by certain fan bases. So he has a target on his back. A lot of different fan bases hate on him, especially the Eagles. And, they're going to try to find anything they can to, make him look bad. And that's what they did with that clip, which, again, I didn't think was that, crazy. And, yeah, so, that's the fan base that's, mostly hating on him is the Eagles, because, they've had their whole back and forth with Deebo Samuel and Philly. It was a whole thing. And, that's definitely played a part into the whole situation. So let's talk about some other things, going into mini camp today. The Commanders will be playing the Patriots for the preseason, and there will be Tom Brady's statue unveiled. So just saw that randomly on Twitter right now. I'm scrolling through looking at stuff. So Noah Brown, no injury update yesterday. So I did hear a clip. It was kind of saying, they don't know really what the injury is, if it's a, lower body injury, or if it's maybe something like he re-aggravated an injury from, the end of last season, which was more an internal injury, which is bad. So again, have no idea. They just said he got carted out, and I think they were like rolled over a bump or like a pothole with the cart, and he like let out a yelp. So maybe that's, off of frustration, or the bump just made the injury worse. I don't know, but just something to, watch out for. We'll see what happens with Noah Brown, but it is what it is. If it was a good update, I'm pretty sure Dan Quinn would have already said it already, and he hasn't. So again, not the greatest news right there, in my opinion. And back to the Deebo real quick, he just reposted a post on Instagram, a story, just talking about don't respond to fools and foolishness, and you only propel them to, be who they are. So he's just, saying, he's still kind of responding, but not directly. And that is true. I mean, even though I'm going over it right now, and I guess I'm feeding into it, but I just think it's funny. I don't, it's not me obviously running out there. I don't think it's, I don't take offense to it. It's just cool to look back on in a few months when, Deebo Samuel and the Commanders hopefully are in the playoffs, and, Deebo Samuel's a huge part of that. And if Noah Brown's out for a long period of time, that's even more of a reason for, needing Deebo Samuel and needing him to ball out, because, Noah Brown is and, was a contributor last year and was going to be a contributor this year. You got Luke McCaffrey, you got Jalen Lane, but you can't really count on them to be, 600, 700, 800, 900 yard type receivers. You can't. Maybe one of them will be. Who knows? Maybe Jalen Lane has a huge rookie year. Maybe Luke McCaffrey has a really good second year. But like I said, you can't bank on those two things happening. And it would be great if it did. it would be great. But, it's more realistic for Deebo Samuel to have a really good year. And I think he will have maybe not a really good year, but I think he'll have a good year, a year better, better year than he did the past year with the 49ers, which is like one of the worst years of his career. And it's still better than what the Commanders had at their wide receiver 2 last year. But if Noah Brown would have played the whole year, it would have been over that. But yeah, that is it for today's video. Just want to talk about it. It's funny seeing all this stuff on social media and how, fans take a clip from practice and just go crazy about it. Not even like a Moss or anything. It's a clip of like basically walkthroughs. Like he's jogging, and yeah, it doesn't look great, but that's how he normally runs. Even when he was good, he runs more of like a running back, anyways. But yeah, that's it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and peace.